Ever since reading Rudyard Kipling's immortal Jungle books as a boy, I've wanted to visit India. In November of 2010, I finally did. Together with Adam Davis, the Centre for Fortean Zoology's expedition coordinator, and 3 other CFZ members, we visited Meghalaya in the northeast of India to try and solve the Riddle of the Hills. Forget everything you think you know about the Yeti, because it's almost certainly wrong. The Yeti does not have white fur, it does not live in the snow. It's not abominable, and it's not a man. The creature is reported to have black, brown or reddish fur. Sightings occur mainly below the snow line, in deep forests. Up above the snow line there'd be nothing for the animal to eat. In 1951, Eric Shipton took these photographs of an alleged track left by the Yeti. But Shipton was a notorious prankster, and many people believe these to be nothing more than the tracks of a mountain goat. Indeed, no serious cryptozoological expedition would look up in the snowfields of the Himalayas for what, if it exists, is a shy and retiring great ape. Could a new species of ape be existing in the world today, in the 21st century? Yes, I believe it could. In 2009, the CFZ took an expedition to the Indonesian island of Sumatra, where CFZ member Dave Archer and our local guide Sahar actually saw the orang pendek, a mysterious ape known only from that island.
We've just had one of the most awesome experiences out in the jungle. I haven't told any of the others this yet. Dave and I have been waiting to say it for the first time when we got here. What basically happened is myself and Dave, Sahar and Donnie, who are the trackers, were moving through the jungle. I heard the movement of a very large animal and I told everyone to stop. And at that point, Sahar and Dave went slightly ahead while Donnie and I moved round to the side. And then I'll let Dave take over.
Right, from then on, Sahar said, I can see something, there's something up in the tree, there's something up in the tree. And I was looking around. I could hear gibbons in the background, but they were a long way off. You know, I looked around and he kept pointing, I couldn't see, and I said, well, I've got this laser pen. And I said, if I point in this laser pen, point it out, and he held my hand until he got the point, and I looked, and when I looked down, there, hanging on the side of the tree, was an ape the size of a chimpanzee, dark, holding on the side like that. We didn't take a picture, because it was so bad, you couldn't see his face, his head was there, his hands were hidden behind the branch. He was at this side, you could see his buttocks there, his thigh, in the bottom part of his heel, up his back, and he was broad shouldered, in black or dark, very dark brown, and holding it onto a tree like that. As we went round to get a better view of it, but when we got round to the other side, unfortunately it had gone maybe up the tree. There's a lot of thick canopy pits up in the tree. Maybe he's gone up to the top of the tree, or he come down because there was a deep ditch nearby and dropped into the ditch and then shot off along the ditch.
Now, at that point, Sahar said, "That is orang pendek. That is orang pendek." He was so emotional at that point. He burst into tears. He started sobbing in the jungle. We had to console him.
He was crying.
I put my arm around him because he was so upset that he hadn't got a better view of it. He's seen orang pendek for the first time in his life, and he was completely overwhelmed. He was bawling, he was crying his eyes out in the jungle, wasn't he? I had to comfort him, as Dave says, because he was so upset. What we did when we got there as well is we've covered over, because it's so wet now. We found a couple of prints which we've covered over now, and we've also got some organics. Richard, if you just come in.
This is what he was chewing.
This is what he was chewing. As he was moving. It's rattan, which the orang pendek is known to eat. We might have what we think is a hare. It could be fibrous matter, we're not sure, but we'll get these analysed. But what we're absolutely certain of is that was what he was eating. So if there's any DNA on that, then job done.
I have been studying some of the hairs that Richard brought back from Sumatra, and they are, I can understand that the guy from New York couldn't really get any DNA out of them because they're in a rather poor condition, but what we have been able to ascertain is that the hairs of these creatures and the little DNA we've been able to study so far does bear some resemblance to orangutans. Whether they actually are orangutans or a new species of orangutan or a new species of primate altogether, I can't say that as of yet, but they have some resemblance to orangutans.
The first thing that happened with those hairs was that I did a structural analysis of them, looked at the structure of the hair, the scales in the hair, the pigmentation, how it was divided in the hair. Just like you would look at on any other organism. How big is it? What does it look like? And all that kind of stuff. And I could see from those hairs that they were primate hairs and looked very much like orangutan hair. They were in a rather poor condition, so I couldn't be completely certain. And so when I had finished that, I gave them on to DNA analysis to see whether it would be possible to extract DNA and enough DNA to be able to make a positive identification.
Lars carried out further tests on the hair. He found it had several important structural differences from those of an orangutan and was forced to conclude that it came from a large unknown primate. The second set of DNA that was analysed seemed to be human or near human, which contradicted the earlier analysis which seemed to show something more like an orangutan. We think the second sample may have been contaminated with human DNA, but that would not affect the structure of the hairs. If a creature like the orang pendek, reckoned to be between 4 and 5 feet tall, can exist on the island of Sumatra, what else is out there? What could exist on mainland Asia? There have been reports since time immemorial of a gigantic upright walking ape. In 1934, a young Dutch paleontologist, Ralph von Koenigswald, was wandering around the back streets of Hong Kong. He was looking at curio shops when he came upon an old apothecary. He went inside to poke around because often these places sold fossils. He came upon something that was labelled lung chi, or dragon's teeth. He knew instantly that they were not the teeth of a dragon or any other reptile, but they were the teeth of a huge primate. They were molar teeth 6 times as large as those of a human being. He subsequently named this creature Gigantopithecus. Gigantopithecus blacki is still only known from jawbones and teeth, but we think the animal was probably a biped due to the shape of the jaws. The jaws are very wide and flared, implying that the neck came straight down from the skull rather like a human being's, and unlike known species of apes, which are all knuckle walkers. This implies the animal stood on 2 legs like a man, and may have been as much as 10 feet tall. Fossils of Gigantopithecus have been found in Vietnam, India and China. The youngest of them are only 500,000 years old. Now that sounds like a long time, but in geological time it's merely an eye blink. Gigantopithecus, which probably had primitive tool use like all known apes, lived alongside a lot of animals that are still around today. These include the Great Indian Rhinoceros, the Asian elephant, the tiger, the panda and the Malayan tapir. There's no convincing reason why Gigantopithecus should be extinct. It's been argued that our own ancestors, Homo erectus, drove it into extinction, but I wouldn't fancy going up against a 10-foot tall ape, probably several times stronger than a mountain gorilla, especially if it was wielding a club or hurling rocks. It's highly likely that Gigantopithecus, or something very like it, still survives today in the remoter areas of Asia. We associate the Yeti mainly with the Himalayas, but it's far more widespread than that. It is indeed found in Himalayan countries, mainly in forested valleys, places like Bhutan, Nepal, Tibet, Sikkim, and other areas. But it's also found in the north of India, where it's called Mande Burung, and very similar creatures are reported in China, where it's known as the Yeren. More recently, sightings have come to light on the Malaysian peninsula, where the creature is known as Orang Mawas. As I've already explained, we weren't going above the snow line to hunt for the Yeti, because a creature like that, a gigantic ape, needs a lot of food. It'll be down in the forests and the jungles, not in the frozen zone where there's nothing for it to eat. But why did we choose Meghalaya? Why were we going to northern India? There were several reasons. Adam Davis, team leader, had been told about recent sightings of Yeti-like creatures in Meghalaya by Ian Redmond. It seemed a very good place to go, not only because the sightings were very recent, but we had a contact over there, Dipu Marek, a local journalist who had been on the trail of the creature for 14 years. He was going to help us in our hunt for the Indian Yeti. So, Dipu, when did you first become interested in Mande Burung?
It was a long time back when I was young. I heard stories my grandfathers, my grandmothers and other people, they used to tell us when we were sitting around the bonfire in the evening. So they used to tell me about the stories of Mande Burung, the creature, giant creature in the jungle, hairy creature. So from then on, the story lingers in my mind, and when I grew up, when I was in school, then I thought, why not look into the matter myself? Because there is nobody officially looking into these incidents till now.
And you say you think Mande Burung is very closely related to the Yeti?
Yes, I think it's a distant cousin, because the Yeti is a name given to perhaps the same creature in Nepal, but Mande Burung is a Garo word, our local tribal word, means forest man or jungle man.
You've never actually seen the creature yourself?
No, I'm trying, but till now I have not got that chance.
Have you ever seen its tracks?
Yes, I have seen its tracks in 1997 in a village called Silkigiri in South Garo Hills. We have seen around 7 or 8 tracks in the riverine beach, sandy beach. It's quite long. It's about maybe about 15 inches long, and it's quite deep. So we thought that it must be quite heavy. So, and another instance is that I have seen another footprint in Nokrek National Park also. That was in 2004. So I have seen the tracks quite a many times now.
Have you always been looking for the Mande Burung in India, or have you ever gone abroad to look for the creature?
No, I have not gone abroad yet. But even I have spent my time looking around this Mande Burung only in Garo Hills. Yeah, I have not been to Nepal. I have not been to any other country except in India.
Well, hopefully we'll be able to turn up some evidence.
Yes.
Hope so. Fingers crossed.
Yeah. I hope someday we'll get a breakthrough.
The state of Meghalaya used to be part of the larger state of Assam. It got its own statehood in January 1972, when 2 areas of Assam were brought together and made into the state of Meghalaya, mainly due to pressure from the hill tribes that live there. Many of the hill tribes, including the Garos, are actually Oriental in origin rather than Bengali. To look at them you might think that they were from Malaya or Indochina. In fact, their ancestry lies in Tibet, and they migrated their way down into northern India several hundred years ago. The Garo people originally were very fierce warriors and headhunters, but they were amongst the first people to turn to Christianity when the missionaries arrived in India. The reason for this is that the Garo people thought that if they became Christians the missionaries would leave them alone, and indeed they did, and they were more or less left to their own devices ever since. The bit I find hardest about expeditions is actually the travelling to get there, rather than the hiking when we're in the field itself. we had a long flight to Delhi and spent a night in the city. I have to say, it's not very attractive. On our one night in Delhi, we asked a taxi driver to show us some of the sights. He took us and dropped us off at a Western-style mall. We might as well have been in Birmingham. This was to be my 8th expedition in as many years with Dr. Chris Clark, and it felt strangely familiar to be riding with him, bumping along the road up towards the jungle once again, off on a new adventure. The places where cryptids live are generally very remote. We had taken an inland flight from Delhi to Guwahati. From there it was a long journey up into the Garo Hills. Even with today's four-wheel drive vehicles, journeys like this take hours and hours and hours. It made me wonder how long such journeys would have taken back in the time of the British Empire, before such vehicles existed, when men were on horses or on foot. It's often struck me as odd that the most I see of a country is not when I'm in the field searching for the cryptid, it's when I'm journeying from the airport to our target area. This is where we cover the most amount of land. Usually, whenever we go to look for a cryptid, we turn up information of other animals that we hadn't heard of before that inhabit the same area. One of the most remarkable examples are crested serpents of gigantic size. Again and again and again we hear stories all across the world of immense, usually dark-coloured snakes far larger than any python or known anaconda that bear a red, rooster-like crest upon the head. Here it was no exception. So tell me about this serpent you have in the Garo Hills.
The serpent that we have here is called a sankani, and it's supposed to have a comb like a cock.
Yeah.
And it's supposed to crow.
How large is this creature?
It can vary in sizes. So, according to myth, it can even actually like shapeshift. It can make itself small, as small as an earthworm, or it can be as huge as like moving hills and stuff. So they're supposed to reside at the source of streams where there's perennial source of water. So when they usually when there are lots of landslides and unknown causes for natural disasters like landslides or places that go sink. Yeah. So we the people say that it is due to the sankani.
Sankuni.
Sankani.
Yeah, it sounds very like the naga they have in Thailand, which is supposed to have a crest on its head, like a cock. And back in England, we have something called the basilisk, which is a snake with a crest on its head. It's supposed to be able to kill you just by looking at you. And way back 2006, we were in West Africa, and they have something there called the naga. Called the ninkananka, which is very like a snake with a crest on its head. So it seems to be a sort of universal belief. That's really interesting.
And the thing is, this sankani is not exactly malevolent. It's helps people also sometimes.
Yeah.
It's in known myth.
Yeah.
In myths, they've been said to make themselves as bridges so that people can cross over.
Do people still report seeing them today?
Yeah. When there's landslides and stuff.
Yeah.
And they're supposed to, if there are people living by the stream in which it's supposed to come down.
Yeah.
If it comes to people in a dream 2 or 3 days before, telling them to move away from the streams.
Yeah.
So that they can save themselves.
That's fascinating. Brilliant. Thank you very much.
Nelvison's house is just here.
Yeah.
And he saw the creature for 3 days beyond this hill.
Right.
Beyond that ridge? Yes. Beyond it.
Soon we got our first sight of the deep jungle proper. We heard the sound of hoolock gibbons in the distance. These are India's only official species of ape, but we didn't see them. Much like the Siaman gibbons at Gunung Tuju in Sumatra, they remained elusive. It seems to be that whenever we're in an Asian jungle, we'll hear gibbons, but we never see them.
Where does Nelbison, does he live down here now?
No, it's up, yeah.
Just up here. Oh, you sent the boys to get him, yeah?
Dipu told us of a witness called Nelbison who had seen the creature. He'd set up an interview with us for later on in the expedition. He also told us of another recent sighting where a family of 4 Mande Burung, a male, a female and 2 youngsters, had been seen raiding a pineapple patch on a farm. The farmer had wanted to shoot at them, but his wife thought they looked too human and wouldn't let him. The creatures ran away when they saw him, taking great handfuls of pineapples with them and stuffing them into their mouths. The Mande Burung is thought to be a herbivore, but on occasion it has been seen eating freshwater crabs. Apparently, just 2 weeks before we were there, the whole area had been swarming with a huge herd of elephants and hundreds of water buffalo, but now they'd moved on. Like the gibbons, it seemed we were fated not to see any of the big game of the area. We were not lucky enough to see India's only official ape, but would we see its unofficial one? Eventually we arrived at Nokrek National Park, one of the most undisturbed and least visited national parks in India. Creatures that live in the park include Asian elephants, leopards, tigers, gibbons, several varieties of monkeys, sloth bears. This area is supposed to be the wettest in the world, having the highest rainfall of anywhere on the globe. Maybe that's why there are no tourists here, but when we were there, hardly any rain fell at all. One of the great things about being on expeditions to remote areas is you get to try new kinds of food. In this case, a bizarre little fruit that is said to be the ancestor of all other citrus fruit all over the world.
Oh, yes. What are these? We call it Tisking. Called? Tisking.
Tisking.
Yeah.
Tisking? I've never tried one of these before. See what they're like. Tisking. Very nice. A lot of seeds. I'm trying to think of something I can equate them to. Seem to have a flavour all of their own. Delicious. I'm sure they'd go down well in England. Very sweet. Seeds. Quite possibly something that the Yeti might eat around here. In recent years, we've seen new exotic fruits on the market, such as dragon fruits and mangosteens. It'd be nice to see these fruits join them, and in fact I think there's a whole untapped market here of strange, unusual, delicious tropical fruit that's unknown in Europe. After stopping to read a sign that made up in spirit what it lacked in grammar, we continued into the deep jungle. Fallen tree in the middle of the road after one of our vehicles failed to get up. Too steep, too treacherous, and it wasn't a four-wheel drive like we thought. So they've all had to come in one vehicle, and there was a fallen tree in the way. Each rainforest is unique with its own individual character. The jungle here, for instance, were quite different to that I've experienced in Sumatra. It seemed more open, a lot less dense and far drier, ironically, since this is the wettest place in the world, but we were here during the dry season. We trekked deeper into the jungle, looking for a decent place to set up our camera traps. We brought with us fruit as bait, because we know the creature enjoys fruit. We also looked for a number of water sources.
Dipper, how many sort of streams and rivers? Will we be crossing a few of these before we get to the point? Or is this the only one, is it, we're going to cross?
No, there's some
Smaller?
smaller one, yeah.
Okay, and there's a smaller one.
Yes.
It's a good place to put them, so
How far are we going to trek today?
Maybe 1 or 2 kilometers.
Okay, so when we get to the end point of the trek, yeah, can you tell us? Yeah. So this is one possible site for camera trap. Possible, yeah. Because we can see, if you look down there, you can see a long way in terms of the jungle space, and it's got a drink, yeah? So it's a potential site.
Yeah, okay. We found this nest-like structure in the jungle. We're just going to have a closer look.
So what we're thinking that is?
Could be an Don't wait till we've got the kits out. Have you got any gloves and stuff?
Yes, I have got gloves.
Brilliant.
I've got tweezers and bags.
Brilliant. Well, let's get it all out.
Let's ask the people who know, why would local people cut anything?
Well, let's ask him. Who's it? Do you know who made this? Was it local people or is it an animal? A pig?
Yeah, wild pig.
Wild pig.
Next to a wild pig. Red herring, but very interesting anyway.
Maybe similar. I mean, the nest of a pig and then...
And then we found the perfect place to set up the camera traps.
Yeah. Wait, yeah.
Yes.
As we were setting up the camera traps, one of the scouts found a cave a few hundred yards away.
Right, are we going to go look at the cave and come back up then?
Well, we'll see. We've got one of the boys checking out the cave to see if it's worth looking at.
Because there could be hairs in there of anything, couldn't there?
Your caves are good. You can look on the floor. Also for bones.
It's all going to be...
Preserved bones. Well.
If
Yeah.
it's a cave that's big enough for a bear to go in,
We're just checking out if it's a cave.
see it.
Do you see what I mean?
It might just be a hollow on the end of it.
Yeah, it's caves are wide term. So Dipu sent one of the guys in to see if it's substantial.
As long as he doesn't destroy any possible evidence.
What's the date today, guys?
The cave was very small and quite out of the way on a cliffside. It was far too small to have been inhabited by a Yeti. The only thing of note that was found inside the cave was the footprint of a small felid.
The cave, such as it was a bit of a washout. More the collection of rocks than a true cave. Nothing too interesting inside it, but hopefully tomorrow we'll be seeing some bigger, more impressive caves. For the time being we're going to go down to a water hole. Hopefully there'll be some footprints and things around there. This is an artificial dam apparently, used as a watering hole by the animals. We've come down to see what tracks are about.
Okay, what we're going to do is we're going to set a camera trap up here. This is the water hole.
Good work.
So can we get one on one of the trees here?
Get some bait down as well.
Yeah. We've got the bait now. It's there. So we're just ready. We baited up the other camera trap, so we're just ready with this one now.
Maybe I don't know about here. If an elephant comes past, it's going to rip it off there.
Yeah, but it's got to be we've got to take a chance, otherwise.
Although we found no tracks of any significance, this seemed like an ideal place to put up our camera trap. It was the biggest watercourse in the area, and the animal would obviously have to come down here to drink.
There's some type of plant that apparently, if it stings you for a month. I went and touched some of the stinging plant for a month and things before. Now, but a word to the wise: what you've got to do is not scratch them and pull out the thorns very slowly. If you scratch them, it's all over for a month. I've just managed to get the thorns out, so I think it'll be okay.
And Richard eating
Gin citrus.
gin citrus.
A local citrus fruit. That's 2 new fruits I've tried today. With the taste deck we had this morning, which was lovely. Well, quite unlike anything else I've ever had.
What's it like?
Like a less sharp lemon.
Right.
You can eat a lot of them.
How many could you eat in one go?
A couple maybe at a push. Not as nice as the taste deck. The taste deck was... I can't liken it to anything. It's like having like seeing a new colour. You can't liken it to anything else because you've never seen anything before that's like it. You didn't taste anything before that's like the taste deck. But this is very like a lemon, only less sharp.
Some witnesses are more interesting than others. Sadly, the man who owned the lodge didn't believe in any of the local cryptids.
Thank him first of all for everything and for talking to us. Thank you very much. Could you ask him his name? What his name is? Spindalari. Spindalari. Yeah. What is the name of your village? Sorry? You said you once saw a very large snake. I'd like to know about the large snake you saw.
Because I spoke no Garo, I was dependent on Rudy, the interpreter, to translate for me. Soon we became a very good team.
He saw it this tree, this hill.
Yeah.
Seems the snake was like where there was like some elephants had already been there. So in that ground, the snake was sunning itself.
Mm-hmm. And how large was the snake?
Yeah, he's saying it's this big.
Yeah.
And it had not swallowed anything.
Mm-hmm. How long? How long was it? Does he know? Does he know in feet? How many feet?
See, around 10 feet.
So,
10 feet.
Oh, 10 feet. Oh, it's quite a small one then. Yeah. Yeah. Has he ever seen the Mande Burung, or does he know anything about the Mande Burung?
He's saying it does not exist.
He doesn't think it exists. Yeah. And how about the Sanduki? Has he ever heard of that? Does he know anything about Sanduki?
He does not believe in that either.
He doesn't believe in that either. Okay. Well, thank you very much. Thank you very much. Thank you. Yeah. Plains over there are Bangladesh, just a few miles away. There. Bangladesh.
This is the beautiful Samsung River. Its name means rice pot. It's said to be one of the places where the Sankuni lurks. Unfortunately, there's no crocodiles here. It's too cool and too high up in the mountains.
Sadly, no sign of any crocodiles.
Our focus moved from the West Garos to the South Garos. And whilst we were waiting to be given permission to enter this part of the park, the team, including 2 very keen naturalists, John McGowan and Dave Archer, took the opportunity to look at some of the local invertebrates.
Right, tell us a bit about what you got there, mate.
There's a vinegaroon, a whip scorpion. John McGowan lifted the rock over and it was underneath. But as you say, it's friendly. It's not really trying to bite at all. But it sprays a vinegar type substance out of its tailwind into the eyes. He's right. Got another one here?
No.
Oh, big. He's got. That's nice,
big
isn't it?
cricket.
Proper big one, isn't it?
That's the one that make those loud noises. I
Oh,
think.
right, yeah.
It's female. It's not even fully grown yet, I don't think.
I have to have these as pets usually. But it's not too bad, he hasn't sprayed a lot of vinegar.
Here we've got one of those old-fashioned hanging bridges, a bit like in the old Johnny Weissmuller Tarzan films. I've never actually been across one of these. I'll have to give it a go. Now you can see it's starting to rock a little as we get towards the centre. Now this is... Yeah, it's a bit like being on one of the old-fashioned piers, isn't it?
It's totally trippy.
Now this is what I think of as India being like. This is like the real India to me. You know, not Delhi or, you know, these little villages surrounded by farms and fields.
The nice thing about coming to somewhere as wild as Meghalaya is just how remote and different and refreshing it is. In today's homogenised world, everything seems the same. Every town we go to has a McDonald's or a Starbucks. There are so few wild places left anymore, it's a real pleasure to go to them.
There we are, end of the bridge, and Johnny Weissmuller still hasn't shown up.
I'm going to go back.
We're approaching Siju Cave. It's far, far too close to human habitation for Mande Burung to live in at the moment, but it may have lived here in the past. We know that Gigantopithecus bones have been found in caves in India and in China, so there might be something here. Apparently the head man of the village saw a Mande Burung in here and it frightened him so badly that he hasn't come back to the cave. As I mentioned before, I don't think a Mande Burung would be living here full time, it's just too close to human habitation. But hopefully we might get to talk to the man and find out just what went on.
Jentar was the head man of Siju village. Several years ago he had an experience in Siju caves that frightened him so badly he, to this day, refuses to return. He had been on a fishing trip in the caves with some friends. The caves are well known for their fish, freshwater crabs and other animals.
So I'll start with a quick introduction to character, Richard.
By candlelight they had heard a strange crunching sound which he describes rather like a human being standing on bamboo. But it was deep in the caves. Soon they came across huge footprints, as if something had walked through one of the underground streams and then walked out over some rocks, leaving its footprints behind it. Jentar said that they were human-like, but vast in size. They could hear a large animal moving round in the darkness. He and his friends became terrified and fled, realising that the Mande Burung was in the caves. Siju caves are the third largest caves on the Indian subcontinent, and have many entrances. We only explored a tiny part of them. It might seem strange that the Mande Burung was so close to human habitation, but it may have came in another entrance in the forest. The cave retains a very stable temperature which may have attracted the Mande Burung. It's also full of freshwater crabs which the creature is known to favour.
This bone was found in the caves where the local man claimed to have seen the Mande Burung, or rather saw its footprints, the cave we explored the other night. At first when I saw it I thought it was a cow bone, but the shape of it seems to suggest it's from a biped, which means around here either a human being or a Mande Burung. It's rather small. If it's a Mande Burung, it's a very young one. I think it's probably a human bone, but we'll wait and see. We're going to get our old friend Dr. Lars Thomas and his team to take a look at it at Copenhagen University. Take a closer look. Yeah, so you open it up, John, we'll take a closer look. See the sort of bowing to it, which does indeed make it look like perhaps the tibia of an upright walking creature. We could be completely wrong. I doubt whether it's a Mande Burung, but it's always worth making sure. This is what we're having to eat later on. A local eel. Caught in the river. A fabulous looking creature. Scale that up to 30 feet, that's what's in Rotten there. Well, not the same species, obviously. European eel.
Rufus? Yes? When we get back, can you try and find people we can interview as our eyewitnesses?
Sure. Yeah.
And also the shaman if possible.
Yes.
Yeah?
Sure.
Brilliant, thank you.
Is Dave coming with us?
Dave's going looking for lizards and other reptiles and things. He likes those sort of things, yeah?
I saw some lizards, yes.
He's having a look round.
We decided to go and look at a local bird sanctuary. We thought it would only be a short walk into the jungle, but as it turned out it was one of the longest and most arduous treks of the expedition, but it took us past some truly spectacular scenery. It was easy to imagine that a creature like Gigantopithecus could live in this forest. There was plenty of bamboo. We think that Gigantopithecus was primarily a bamboo and fruit feeder. There's plenty of room for it to hide. We were only on the outskirts of the jungle, but it was deep and virtually unexplored. All modern apes are knuckle walkers. They move on all fours. We think Gigantopithecus stood and walked erect like a man. What is the reason for this? It's quite a difficult question to answer, but now there's evidence that a lot of prehistoric apes and early hominids walked on two legs even when they were in the forest. So there must have been some advantage that we don't know about standing up on your hind legs. Initially it was thought that bipedalism was linked to our primitive ancestors coming out onto the plains of East Africa to exploit new food sources such as carrion. By standing erect they were higher up and could look around them for predators. But now it's known that some forest-dwelling creatures also walked on their hind legs. So the short answer is, we simply don't know. Rudyard Kipling, who died in 1936, was one of the greatest writers who ever lived, and is these days very much underappreciated. His Jungle books remain some of my favourite literature. In the story Kaa's Hunting, Kipling describes a ruined city deep in the jungle inhabited by the Bandar Log, or the monkey tribe. They called it the Cold Lairs.
Although this was almost a heap of ruins, it seemed very wonderful and splendid. Some king had built it long ago on a little hill. You could still trace the stone causeways that led up to the ruined gates, where the last splinters of wood hung to the worn, rusted hinges. Trees had grown into and out of the walls. The battlements were tumbled down and decayed, and wild creepers hung out of the windows of the towers on the walls in bushy hanging clumps. A great roofless palace crowned the hill, and the marble of the courtyards and the fountains was split and stained with red and green, and the very cobblestones in the courtyard where the king's elephants used to live had been thrust up and apart by grasses and young trees. From the palace you could see the rows and rows of roofless houses that made up the city, looking like empty honeycombs filled with blackness, the shapeless block of stone that had been an idol in the square where four roads met, the pits and dimples of street corners where the public wells once stood, and the shattered domes, the temples with wild figs sprouting on their sides.
What struck me was just how much like Kipling's Cold Layers these formations were, even though they were totally natural. But like the Jungle Book, Shere Khan used to lurk here as well, as recently as the 1990s. There was one area of these rocks where human beings had to walk one abreast, and a tiger lay in wait for them. The sides of the walls were so tall and so smooth there was no escape. This place was known as Tiger Alley.
This is the place, this is Tiger Alley.
This is where the tiger lake's ambush. This you couldn't escape, nowhere to run to. Well, Adam's in front of me and he's bigger than I am. He's not got as much fat on him, but he's probably got more red meat.
I can run a lot quicker than you.
Pavarotti can run a lot quicker than me, and he's dead. This is amazing, I've got to get a still photograph of this. Look at that. Leopard scat containing monkey hairs.
We may not have seen any of the big game with our own eyes, but there was a lot of evidence that they'd been here just a short time before. There was plenty of small animals, like these frogs that skittered into a shallow marsh as we walked past. And, although once again we didn't see them, there was evidence that large game, in this case elephants, had frequented the area quite recently.
Dried out marshy area here. Lots of animal footprints, mainly buffalo. We came down to see if there's any Mande Burung footprints. Seen nothing like it so far, just buffalo.
On the way back we stopped to refresh ourselves at a stream. There have been many sightings of the Mande Burung hunting for freshwater crabs in streams just like this. But the Mande Burung wasn't there today, or if he was keeping remarkably well hidden.
Isn't it? You can imagine something falling in there.
Yeah. Apparently this cave has never ever been explored. We've just happened on it in the jungle. The guys haven't seen it before. We're wondering if there's a way down into it. It looks like there's no way down at the moment, not without climbing gear anyway, which we don't have. No, that's pretty sheer. You're not going to get into that.
You could get down to that ledge, but whether or not you could get down from that ledge, I don't know.
Also, in our exhausted state, we're not in the best health to do it at the minute. After 5 hours trekking through the jungle at 80 degrees.
From there we moved on to a new HQ, a lovely lodge with a fabulous view of the Simsang River. It was in a town called Bagimera, and of all the places we stopped, this was my favourite. It was here we met with a local cryptozoologist and sculptor called Becca. He had some strange stories to tell us about the Sankuni.
Myself, I have not seen.
No.
But I had heard lots of story about this.
Yeah.
And once this one also, this was Toleges Nokma.
Yeah.
It's a village headman. It's very old. He went to fight even the war also.
Yeah.
As a labor. So he came back and he settled there. He is an eyewitness. That one's very big. It's a 60 feet long.
Yeah.
That one is, that creature is
60 feet.
60 feet long, very quite big.
What colour was it?
Very big, very long. That one. And he have a like a cock type, no? This one.
It had the cock's comb on
Yeah.
its head.
Did he
yeah,
say
yeah,
what
they have a- it's a
colour
guide,
it was?
Actually, some people they shot it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's why.
Whereabouts was this?
We call it as a sankhani. Actually, it's a dragon type. Actually, that one is, and have a small leg here also. Small
Little
leg. Yeah,
legs,
little
little
small
limbs,
leg, yeah.
rudimentary
I asked
limbs.
him.
Yeah.
Just explain how it looked like, no? So he explained. It looked like a snake type only, but quite big, bigger than the snake. And the scale also quite big scale.
What colour were the scales?
It's a blackish color, like that. Blackish, brownish type, like that only. It looked like a snake, he explained, no? Quite big. As long as 60 feet, he saw that one, eyewitness. And some others, guys also eyewitness are there. I didn't ask them much interview.
Whereabouts did you say this happened?
Pardon?
Whereabouts did they see the Sanduki?
I can understand.
Where was it?
Where was it?
Oh, it's inside the Garo Hills only.
In the
One is nearby this Bangladesh, border of the Bangladesh. One bill is there, one leg. So there only he saw that one.
And what year was this? When did it happen? When did he see it?
It's around 1940, like that only. During 1940, he don't know. He didn't. He's illiterate, no, that's why he don't know.
And did he say people shot it?
Yeah, people shot that one. Everyone, so many people eyewitnessed that one. They had gathered, so he also went there. What happened? No? So it's a rumor. Actually, the story is. So he also went there to see. Yeah, and he saw that one.
And what happened to the body? Do you know?
And the fishermen always every year 20 to 25 people used to die there in that river, in that bill.
Because of the animal?
Because might be because of that only. So after shot that one, no one's what called the missing report is there.
So did it eat people?
Yeah, might be.
Sounds like it.
Might be, chances are there.
What happened to the body of the Sanduki after it was shot?
Half the portion is in the 60 feet is out of the water, and the rest is inside the water. They didn't take it out also. It's quite big, and the people scared to touch it also.
So it's bigger than 60 feet if a portion of it's in the water.
Yeah, might be longer. Very big.
So the body,
visit, no?
the body was just left where it was.
Yes, even in his village also, some scientists they came, and foreigner maybe I don't know what equipment is this. You can see inside the ground also. Can be some. Is it possible to see the inside the ground?
Yeah.
Some what is called
geophysics.
Geophysics.
Yeah. Through that one, with the help of that one, some foreigner they came and they saw no that one the creature is there. One creature, very big creature, still is it inside the hole, inside the cave. It cannot come out.
It's the caves
that
that
caves.
hold
Yeah.
the animal.
Yes, animal. Still one or two, I think it's one creature is still there. He told us.
And what part of the Garo Hills was this?
It's a Tolegri.
Tolegri.
Tolegri, yes. It's called the place is called nearby the village. It's a Chignap. It is called a Chignap. So, if the equipment and lots of fishes also there. Big fish are there.
What, catfish?
Yeah. Not catfish. Small some what fish we get in Garo Hills, no? The rohutan, like that. So all these fishes are there.
Rudy told us that the Sanduki is blamed for landslides. When it moves, it causes landslides.
Yeah, we believe like that also. Some stories are there. And some have an eyewitness in the Chitmang only. You have been on this one, Shiju. So Shiju, if you go to the Chitmang Peak, near the Chitmang Peak, the village is there. So near their house only, some holes are there. There's a landslide. And the moving of that creature also, some snake, when the snakes move on the sand, some mark is there, no? The moving mark. So it's exactly like that only. The mark is there. It's very big. And the big hole is there.
When was this?
In not much long time back. It's around 2000 around like that only. 2000 or 2001 like that only.
In other parts of India and other parts of Asia, they report very similar animals, but they call them nagas.
Might be, don't know.
Giant snake with a crest on the head.
Might be. But we don't know about the other part of India. But we just know about the story of this Garo Hills only.
They must have been using very, very, very powerful guns to kill something that big.
Yes. Actually, if you research all these things, I think we can get still. If we have equipments, proper equipments to see from inside the ground also, from the night vision, all these things, then some camera which can go inside this water, inside this caves, no? Automatic, we will get.
Has there been any recent reports in the past few years of Sanduki?
Yeah, this year also, but how much it is true, I don't know. You have been not this one, Siju only. After Siju, one village is there. I forgot the village. Last time it's a landslide, so it is buried. But we don't know that one is a Sankni or what. But the tail is quite big. How some portion is come out the ground, I mean open space. The rest is under the mud. Big stones. It's buried. It is reported is there. Whether it's a python, whether it's a Sankni, we don't know that one also. But that the Sankni we call now that one. So that creature called the Sankni, so it's bigger than the python. Quite big.
Well, thanks a lot. Thank you very much. Thank you. What's your name again?
Bikramjit.
Sorry?
Bikramjit A. Sangma.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Throughout this interview, I foolishly managed to mispronounce the monster's name. It's called a Sankuni, not a Sanduki. Quite why I got it into my head it was called a Sanduki, I don't know. The creature brings to mind the South American giant burrowing serpentine beast known as the Minokao. It's a tree viper. Sadly a dead one. Looks like it's been bitten by something, maybe.
Yes.
Maybe a monitor lizard. He's in a cave in the jungle. This is straight out of Rudyard Kipling. This is what they imagined India to be like. Next we visited the jungles beyond the village of Imangre. Here there was supposed to be a simulacra that looked like a Mande Burung footprint in rocks next to a river. Finally we came upon the little river where there were swarms of butterflies. The only thing that is missing is a whacking great crocodile. That would make my day. But unfortunately it was too high and too cold for my favourite animals. So I had to be content with watching the butterflies as they fed off the mud in a way you never see outside of the tropics. This is a piece of simulacra that looks like a gigantic Yeti type footprint. Of course it's nothing of the sort, but it is a nice coincidence that it's here in the Garo Hills where the Yeti, or the Mande Burung, is supposed to actually live. We returned to Imangre and interviewed the head man, Shareng R. Marek, a 56-year-old man with 2 thumbs on his right hand. In 1978, he and some friends were hunting in the forest. As it was beginning to grow dark, they heard something big and powerful crashing through the forest. They heard a loud, deep call, which he recognised as being from the Mande Burung. The village elders often made the call to show him what it sounded like. They became very frightened and ran into a cave and lit a large fire at the entrance. They heard the creature bellowing and crashing around outside the cave all night. At first light, it moved away into the forest and they ran back to the village. Shareng said that the sightings of the creature were more common around 40 years ago. His friend's grandfather had shot one. He said it was man-like and covered in black fur with a face like a monkey. We then made friends with a pet pied hornbill.
Just lovely, aren't
If you're worried about the fate of this bird, it was definitely a pet and not a potential dinner. In fact, it was very fond of eating chilies. What's the name of this river?
This river is called Rungduk River.
Runduk.
Rungduk.
Runduk.
That means rice pot.
Rice pot. Ah, that's interesting. Kid there fishing. Little dog having a swim. It's just a shame there's no crocodiles. I want crocodiles and there aren't any. Then we went on a short boat trip whilst we awaited our second interviewee of the evening.
Okay, if you could start by asking him what his name is, how old he is, and where does he come from?
Nika Marak was the local shaman who was 77 years old and now suffering from cataracts. He made medicines and charms. Back before the Indian-Pakistan War of 1965, he'd been searching for an incense tree deep in the jungle. He came upon some thick creepers that had been snapped by something with immense strength and heard a crashing sound, which he thought at first was an elephant. He turned around to see a huge Mande Burung charging at him from the jungle. Neka pointed to the roof of a nearby tea house in the village in order to give us some idea of the creature's size. The roof of the house was 15 feet tall, a size I was totally unable to accept for the Mande Burung. I don't know if it was the old man's cataracts, meaning that he couldn't estimate the height of the tea house properly, or the length of time from when he saw the creature, or an exaggeration through sheer fear. He went on to say that it resembled a huge hair-covered man. The face looked very human, and the hands were big enough to have broken a human's neck. After all this time he couldn't recall the colour of the creature's fur. To his credit, he didn't try and embellish this by making up a colour, but admitted that he could not recall the colour of the hair. He fled from the forest as quickly as he could. Neka had also seen a sankuni. This also occurred prior to 1965. He saw the creature emerge from a cave beside the Simsang River. He did not see the whole animal as he beat a very hasty retreat. He indicated that the portion that he saw was in the region of 25 to 30 feet long. It was black-scaled with a yellowish underbelly. It had a red, rooster-like crest on its head and red wattles beneath the lower jaw. These cliffs here in the background are Balpakram, where we're headed. Hotspot for Mande Burung sightings. Also, the local people believe when they die their souls go there. So it's a very special place. See caves there in the cliff faces. Pretty hard to get to, but I wonder what lives there. We had intended to drive to Balpakram, but the roads gradually became worse and worse until they deteriorated so they were not roads, just masses of jagged boulders. Even the four-wheel drives couldn't deal with that. In the end we were impelled to get out and walk, which is what we usually do anyway. Although we didn't see them, we saw signs that Asian elephants were once again in the area, and we had been warned that elephants around here had been known to attack vehicles and knock them off the road. We've just passed some men breaking rocks. Here we see some grass being burnt off. There's so much human disturbance up here, and it's so open. I can't conceive of Mande Burung being here, maybe passing through, but not staying here. I think Knockcrack of the places we've been is probably the best chance we have of seeing it. But look at this, fires everywhere, people everywhere. I think any self-respecting Indian Yeti would have been out of here a long time ago. Man's red flower that Mowgli used against Shere Khan and the wolves that turned against him.
We're in Balpakram National Park now, and this particular plateau is the sacred place of the Garo people. This is the place where they come to go, as they believe, when they die. And if I can just get you to pan across there, Richard. what our guide was telling us is that, okay, there are people on the top of the plateau, but as you look down, hardly anybody ever goes there. It's completely uninhabited. And if the Mande Burung does exist, then this is perfect territory for it. Literally and metaphorically, this really is paradise.
So, is this the home of the Mande Burung? Have we tracked it down? Looks like we'll have to wait for another expedition to go into the heart of the Bukatingi Canyon.
Yeah, I was just looking at these irregular surface of the lava here. It forms large polygonal blocks. It reminded me of the Giant Causeway. It's very characteristic of areas where the lava has cooled and contracted when it cools and forms these semi-regular structures.
Ghost marketplace.
We believe like that. Sometimes we can find some seeds, fossilized seeds from here. So believed to be bought from spirit world.
Seeds. Has anybody ever grown them?
No. But sometimes we found some fossilized seeds here. Pumpkins, tomato seeds like this.
Amazing.
Yes,
Yeah,
go ahead. What we're going to do though is break them down into small bite-sized chunks so that we can have the translation. So if he's patient with us in that respect, that's great.
We spent the next day interviewing a number of people from around Tura. The first on our list was Dr. Milton Sasama, Pro-Vice-Chancellor of Garo Hills University. He had written a number of books on the history and folklore of the Garo Hills. He did not believe in the Mande Burung because he had never come across descriptions of the beast in any of his studies. He had only heard of the monster, which he described as being like a giant orangutan, in the past 20 years. He also asserted that there was no tradition of Yeti-like creatures in Assam, the Indian state that lies between the Garo Hills and the Himalayas. Conversely, he believed implicitly in the Sankuni. He knew a man who had eaten the flesh of a dead juvenile Sankuni after it had been washed into a village by a flood. It was between 12 and 20 feet long and bore a rooster-like crest. The meat from the carcass had provided enough food for the whole village. The man, now in his 80s, was called Albin Stone and resided in Tura till this very day. Unfortunately, we were not able to track him down as he was out of town. Then it was time to meet our second interviewee.
Are the books that you write mainly about the animals?
Not only this Garo culture.
And the Garo culture. So it's Garo culture and the animals as well. Would you consider yourself an expert on the animals and on the culture of the Garo Hills?
Culture in Garo Hills.
Yeah.
Culture. But now I have started writing this flora and fauna of Garo Hills.
Right. So have you studied this all your life? Yes. One of the things, as you know from your son, what we're looking at is exploring some of the stories about the Mande Burung.
Yes.
Would you be able?
I saw the footprints only.
You saw the footprints of the Mande Burung.
Very big, about 18 inch.
18 inch. Well, where did you see those footprints?
In this Tura, beyond this Tura mountain, Nokrek Peak area.
Nokrek Peak, just so we can get a fix on Nokrek Peak. How far is Nokrek Peak from Tura?
From Tura, it will be, I think, 21 km from here.
21 kilometres? And when did you see that?
Some years back, in 1999 or something like that.
1999?
Yeah. And my grandfather also...
Llewellyn Marek was the uncle of Rufus, one of our guides, and he was a noted naturalist and author of a number of books on the wildlife of the Garo Hills. In 1999 he came across a set of huge man-like footprints at Nokrek Peak. They were around 18 inches long and found beside a stream. They moved away into the deep jungle. Llewellyn's grandfather, a renowned hunter who had amassed a large collection of trophies, encountered the Mande Burung himself on a hunting trip many years before. He said he had come across the beast in a jungle clearing. It resembled a huge gorilla and was black in colour. It moved around on all fours and seemed to be searching for food. Occasionally it would stop and sit, appearing to eat something. Llewellyn's grandfather became afraid and backed away. This is the only report we have of the creature moving on all fours. Then again, it may have been doing this whilst it was looking for food. The experienced hunter was sure that he had not seen a bear.
Do you know anything about the Sankuni, the giant crested serpent?
I have heard about it, but I am not sure whether there is Sankuni or not.
Llewellyn Marrick's grandfather had been a renowned hunter and had an impressive collection of trophies. When we examined them, eagle-eyed John McGowan made what could possibly be the most important discovery of the expedition.
Giant muntjac species.
Wow. And why do you think it's an unknown giant?
Because I've got a head of a giant muntjac. It's only half the size of that. This is muntjac munchakers, the normal Indian muntjac. This is bigger than the biggest known giant muntjac that's recently found on the Laos borders of Vietnam.
When was that found? That wasn't that very long.
That was in the 1980s. This is much bigger than any known muntjac.
Well, let's ask him about it.
I think it's a new species.
Brilliant. I mean, that's an amazing fact. Could you tell us about this, please, sir? Where's this from?
This is,
I don't know,
my father's collection.
So, and all these deer and goral and samba, were they taken in the Garo Hills, were they?
Yeah. There are so many samples.
Really?
Yeah. But people never care for preserving this.
Because
so when they show, they will kill immediately.
Because have you seen any other muntjac heads this big?
Yes, bigger one also.
Bigger?
Good lord.
Is it? Have you got the bigger one here?
Yeah.
Could you show us it, please?
Yeah, you can.
Because this might be a new species to science.
New species.
It might be, yes. It's very, very, very big.
I think it's almost extinct.
I should think it is, yes. Do you want me to hold it for you? You're alright. It's supposed to be okay.
It's not the finest.
Oh, let's try that now.
This is all bird.
Here we go. Try that.
Just one of these lumps.
It's 2 years old.
Yeah.
That's better.
Well, you say that. You might not.
So you're not doing it?
Well, no, because then you need a very fine ball.
Well, you've got it. That's it. That was very good.
If you put pedicles equal 9 centimetres and antler beam 27 centimetres.
Antler beam. Say what? How many centimetres?
27 centimetres.
Could these forests hold a new species of deer? There's certainly a precedent. The Sumatran muntjac was discovered in 1914. The last known sighting was 1930, until one was snared in Kerinci National Park, Sumatra in 2002. Vu Quang is a heavily forested area of the north-central coastal region of Vietnam. In the 1990s, no less than 5 large mammals were found here. The Sao La or Vu Quang ox, the slow deer, the giant muntjac, the black deer and the holy goat. So it's far from impossible that a new species of deer is existing in Meghalaya. Look how much larger the antlers on this specimen are than those of the common or Indian muntjac on the left hand side. Upon our return to England, the samples were sent to our friend Lars Thomas at the University of Copenhagen. At the time of making this film, we're all awaiting the results with bated breath. Another man we interviewed on the same day was a friend of Llewellyn's, a surgeon called Dr. Lau. Dr. Lau believed the Mande Burung existed, but it was getting very rare. At his house, we looked through his collection of books and came upon something quite remarkable and very important. It was a book by a renowned Indian mammologist called Awardran Chowdhury. The book, A Naturalist in the Karbi Anglong, first published in 1993, has a whole chapter devoted to a Yeti-like creature reported in Assam called the Kenglong Po, including an interview with 2 hunters who were well known to Chowdhury who had seen the creature. This totally refutes Dr. Milton Sasama's assertion that no such creatures are reported from Assam. Moreover, it shows that there's a direct corridor between Bhutan in the Himalayas down to the Garo Hills where Yeti-like creatures are reported. And Dr. Lau had another surprise for us. In the 1960s he had shot a red panda on Tura Peak. This is the only record of the creature in this area, and the nearest colony is 100 miles away in Bhutan. We took some samples from the pelt of the red panda and then visited the zoo at Tora Botanical Gardens.
Bears are intelligent creatures that need enrichment. They need to be kept busy. They need mental stimulus. They've got to have a big enclosure and things to do. They've got to forage for food and hunt for food and stuff. This is totally inappropriate. If you see, they have a very long tongue, the sloth bear. It's the commonest of all the Indian bears. They use their great sloth-like claws to tear into termite mounds and ant hills, and then they slurp up the ants and termites with their tongue. And they also eat fruit, nuts, tubers, small mammals. But they've been known to face down tigers with those claws. They're pretty formidable, and they rip a human being to shreds in seconds. They're notoriously aggressive, sloth bears. Both the Asian black bear and the sloth bear are black with a white on the chest, which was why I was asking the question about the Mande Burung witness who said it was black with white on the chest. But if you get up close, you can see the size of those claws.
He's ace, aren't you? He's showing off for us.
Not fully grown either. He's
a
young one.
He's showing off.
He saw rather than the Mande Burung, because of course bears walk on all fours. They only stand up as a threat posture, and the Mande Burung is thought to walk habitually on its hind legs, like a man.
The following day we interviewed another witness. He was a 51-year-old teacher called Kingston. In 1987 he and a friend were on Tura Peak. He saw large 5-toed man-like tracks. Once again these were seen in the wet sand beside a stream.
When I measured up to these toe sides, the hill sides are longer up to like this. Okay. Then when I put to the hill part, then the toes are little bit longer like this. Then a little bit bigger like this.
Right.
That means Then after some time we heard a voice also.
You heard the voice?
Right. Yeah.
Could you do the voice for
me? Voice is like this. Oh!
Adam asked him to draw the track.
Something like that, no?
So how many toes did it have?
5.
5 toes?
Yes, 5 toes.
Okay. And the thumb, the one red one, was that big or small? Can you remember?
Yeah, little bit big.
Is that right, that, or do you want to change it in any way?
Yes, little bit big.
Did the foot have an arch on it? Can you explain the arch of a foot?
Yeah, this one?
Like a human foot has an arch, or was it completely flat?
Yes, it's something like that, I think. It is made for our footprints also. but it is little bit bigger and longer.
Yeah. So look at the size of your feet compared to mine. Yeah. Was it bigger than my feet?
Yeah, it is like this, no?
Yeah.
And from here, no?
That's within the range of a large human being.
Yeah.
But what I was interested in is our foot, if you see, it has a dip like that there, and in a footprint, you'll often see the arch, the raised part. Can you explain to him?
Yes.
Did it have that, or was it all flat?
Well, ini kepada, ya niki sini japa, oh ya niki kumbang ada kamu mo, arch tu kamu mo, kumbang ada kepada. Well, ini kepada printer well niki flat tu kamu, arch kenang ma, nis ingero. Amcingan kani man amai kita kini kamu.
Because of this Chinese weight, no. There's weight also. There's little bit water also covered with water. Although these toes are footprints of these toes are also covered with water.
Yeah.
That's why I can see all the footprints. This maybe this curve or this flat.
It's flat.
Yeah.
No, that's interesting. Yeah. There's
only it's fixed.
Yeah. That's very interesting, and so is this sketch, and I'll tell you why. Footprints of Yeti, Sasquatch, etc. are very flat. They don't have the arch that the human beings have. They have sometimes they'll have a line, in very clear prints they'll have a line of flexibility about halfway along, but they don't have the arch. Also, the toes are much more even. Like on this sketch here, you see the toes more or less go in a line, and there's the big toe. Whereas human feet, they have sort of this shape. If you look at a human foot, it's much more rounded with the toes going up like that, whereas these toes go more or less straight across. And it's also got this very broad heel, which is indicative of weight bearing. We think these creatures put much more weight on their heels when they walk. They have a different, because they're so big, they have a different locomotion to human beings. When they move, the legs, it's been described as almost like a skier walking over land, and they put much more weight on the heel. So even though,
show me that again, Rich?
so they're putting much more weight on the heel. So even though the size of the print is within the range of a human being, a large human being, the shape of it and the configuration looks much more like Yeti, Sasquatch, one of these creatures.
How deep into the sand was it? Was it very deep, or was it just on the surface?
Yeah. It's up to here, no? Yeah.
So about an inch into the sand.
Yeah.
Okay.
Then I saw this stone also. I think some really heavy creatures are step on this stone. Stone is some weight deep up to this sand weights also. I observed this one also.
This is interesting because it's wet sand. One cannot go far down. When we walk on a beach in wet sand, we hardly make an impression. So
experience with my footprints also.
If it's in an inch in wet sand, means that the animal is very, very heavy.
Yeah. Have a look at the print, John, and see what you think.
Just tracing it. Let me see the original.
Yeah. Have a look at that, John.
See what I mean about the width of the heel?
Yeah. And are you sure the big toe was much bigger than the other toes?
Yeah.
It stuck out as being different.
Yeah.
And did you notice if there was any gap between the big toe and the other toe?
Because it is covered with water, no? That's why I see.
Right, okay. Yeah, that's very
Only I know the footprints. Yeah. We clearly know there's toes and heels little set now.
Yeah, very interesting.
Kingston had heard the vocalisation again, also on Tora Peak, within the last few years. Our final interviewee of the day was Nicholas Sama, who lived in the village of Apati, some 35 miles from Tura. In the 1960s, he had seen the severed hand and forearm of a Mande Burung at a village market. The forearm, which was being displayed on a stall selling bushmeat, was as long as his entire arm. The hand looked like a man's, but was far larger, and the nails were long. The arm was covered in long black hair. Nicholas thought it was very old, as the skin was desiccated. Nobody knew where it had originally come from. Nicholas knew he was looking not at the arm of a bear or of a gibbon, but of a Mande Burung. All the village elders said that that's what the arm was from. Our next port of call was the village of Rongbakri, where witness Teng Sangma took us to a place where he had a particularly strange encounter. Teng had heard that a village carpenter had seen a female Mande Burung suckling a youngster in the bamboo forests near to the village. He didn't believe the story, but on the 24th of April 2004, when he was out with a friend hunting for jungle fowl, they came across one. They saw a huge figure sitting with its back to them. Even in the sitting position, it was 5 feet tall and had immensely broad shoulders. It was covered with long dark hair and had longer hair on its head that fell down across the shoulders and back. It appeared to be a female and was suckling a youngster whose legs were visible at the side of its mother, suggesting that the infant was sitting on her lap. The youngster made slight gurgling noises. The adult was pulling down large bamboo stems and plucking the leaves off them to eat them. The men got to within 50 feet of the creatures, which apparently did not notice them. They watched them for 2 minutes before they became afraid and backed away, leaving the creatures behind. He then drew what he had seen for Adam. On many past expeditions, I've asked people or witnesses to draw the creatures that they've seen. Often we in the West forget that native people might not draw very often, or even have access to paper or pens as much as we do. A lot of the time, they can't draw very well at all and get a little embarrassed about it.
So he says that I'm not a good artist. So he said it looks somewhat like this, like both of this, but this doesn't have a long hair. But the one we saw has a long hair like this.
So John and Dave, who are better artists than I am, have just drawn these two pictures based on what you say you've seen. Which of these does it most look like?
Daw nak ni akan hok nai mana? Maba John mang Dave ya gini noksarang ko salah. Nak ni akan hok sakit. Tapi nak ni nak apa bustu ada? Ya kita tak patah ma, ya kita tak patah. Napa ko akan kan?
Dalla de jungle ni kan khulda laro. Ndi ba ya makhirang da ke mai bongode ya de khni de nikide ibna de namde smron dita de.
So he's saying that the back of the creature is broad like this, and you can still see the child's leg like this, exactly like this. But this picture is not holding a bamboo, and it doesn't. He cannot see the long hairs.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. So how long did you observe it for?
Baita somoy na kung awa busto kunya.
Ibu sini kani grade kan minute kini lang tadi ungen.
Minute kini. He and his friend observed the creature for about 2 minutes.
2 minutes.
Yeah.
And what happened next?
Well, minute kini ni jam gisep kurko bisong ramai naka.
Zaman bisong de enne ken dongani gemen singa bisong cingkun ket na kini. Ahda ya bisana analaba donga. Ayna kisani cingku kim na dokaro ma apni ki galaro kuni pa kini. Yedi badni burung chongmotan. Nimba ruaha katujok ni angni penko. Angas pun pakai katarongan skang yani.
They wanted to watch a little bit longer, but since there is a child, so they thought that the creature must be aggressive, and if that creature senses their presence, that creature might turn back and give them a chase, or maybe even attack them. So after 2 minutes of watching, they slowly backed out, and they ran away to the village.
How far did he get to it? How close was he to the actual creature?
Well, burungoni na song sakni dong po na baita chilla.
Singin bangade chilla changa indike aiwan nukuni kita ungen. 딱 연하게 닦아주거나 늑득 닦아주고.
Yeah, nok tu kacol.
왜? 녹두가 처럼 이제 아예 녹 아니라 그봐.
Yeah, ganthong.
왜 간통 녹벌이 있는 남미는 가로.
Oh, he says that he cannot give the length in feet or meter, but he says that from where he's sitting now to that that wood, you can see that wood is there.
Over
on
there?
The corner of the house. On the corner of the house, there is a plank of wood standing.
Right.
It is something like this. The distance will be like this.
So what's that?
50 feet.
50 feet.
Yeah, about 50 feet. Yes.
His information has been enormously useful to us all, and thank you very much for it. And we'll look forward to going into the forest with him shortly.
Then he took us to the place where it happened. It's interesting that he saw this creature in a stand of bamboo and feeding from bamboo, as we think that Gigantopithecus blacki was a bamboo feeder itself. The massive teeth and jaws of Gigantopithecus are thought by most paleontologists to have evolved to masticate bamboo. The giant panda today has similarly powerful jaws and large flat teeth for crushing this fibrous material. We also know that it fed on fruit because fossil durian seeds have been found lodged between the teeth.
Dave has found this track. Let's zoom in on it. It's barefoot. It looks human. It could be from a young Mande Burung because the villagers don't generally walk around barefoot here. My gut feeling is it's human. Mainly due to the shape of the toes at the top and the way they curve round, but maybe young Mande Burung are different.
The odd thing about this print, if this was just a piece of the forefoot here, then I do not understand what this round, almost heel-like impression is here, because if you're doing this, this shouldn't occur. And if this was the heel impression, well then again it's oddly shaped. It would be rather bowed, more like an ape type foot rather than a hominid's foot.
The jungle was deep and dense here. A creature like the Mande Burung could have disappeared into it with ease and never been seen again. The following day we attended the Wangala festival on the outskirts of Tora. The festival, also called the 100 Drums Festival, has its genesis in the pre-Christian tribal celebrations of the area. It was held in each village after the harvest and is a thanksgiving ceremony to the deity Misi Saljong, also known as the Great Giver. With the influence of Christianity, it began to die out in all but the most remote areas. But then, in 1970s, a group of Garos decided to revive it and hold it as a large festival where each tribe would come and perform in an arena. It's been held every year since 1976. We were lucky enough to be guests at the gathering and met a number of local dignitaries and tried some of the locally brewed rice beer. Garos from all over the area came in differing colours for each tribe. There were 10 drummers apiece and dancing girls, as well as a warrior with a sword and a wooden shield. Each drum rhythm and dance was different and represented different aspects of Garo life. The most memorable, my personal favourite, was a dance to represent the shooing away of flies that are perching on rice. After the show and the rice beer, Chris and Adam showed off their natural rhythm, and you could see that Chris had really seen the Beatles in 1964. Finally, we got to meet the witness Nelberson Sangma from the village of Sanseskio. He observed a Mande Burung for 3 days running in 2003. He was around 500 metres from the creature, looking down upon it. It was on the top of a smaller hill. When he first saw it, the Mande Burung was standing under a tree. It was 9 feet tall and covered with black hair. It moved around for an hour as he watched it. Then it slept in a nest it had constructed by pulling down branches, much like a gorilla does. The next day, the creature was in the same place and appeared to be sunning itself. This time he watched it for half an hour. On the third day, he saw it again, and it was wandering around, foraging. The following day, he took some other villagers to the area and showed them the nest. There was a monkey-like smell that pervaded the surroundings. They found man-like tracks 18 inches long and a huge dropping the length of a human forearm. This contained fibres from banana leaves. Then it was back into the jungle, where he found another one of these interesting little forest streams. I was whiling away a few minutes, filming these pond skaters, which were much larger than the ones I was familiar with back from England, when Adam called to me.
Right, Dave has just found this, yeah? Now, as you can, we're interested in it because it looks potentially like a Mande Burung print. Potentially, not definitely. The thing is, it's got what looks like 5 potential toe indents there. It's about the same size as the alleged footprints of the Mande Burung, and it has a distinctive, what looks like a distinctive heel shape. So we're very interested in this, and we're going to try and scan the ground. This is the area, the village area where Nelbison, who's our eyewitness here, said he saw the Mande Burung. It's not the exact location he saw it, but it's in the general vicinity, within a few kilometres.
Okay, we've got another depression in the sand here. The odd thing about it is exactly the same dimensions as the depression in the sand further downstream. Now the odd thing about this is got a hill about the same size as the depression downstream, and more oddly enough, it has toe depressions exactly the same dimensions as what we thought could have been a print further down, which makes it more likely that they are footprints. There's been no rock moved from here. Nobody would want to move a rock from here, yet further down there was that possibility that a rock had been moved, although we couldn't find the rock. Here there's no reason for anybody to move a rock, and it's certainly same depth, about 2 inches, same depth as the depression further downstream. It really does seem to me that these are footprints of the Mande Burung.
Now the chances of there being 2 foot-shaped depressions of the same dimensions along one short stretch of river are, to say the least, negligible. I was slightly sceptic about the first one, but now we've got this as well. It looks like maybe there is something here, or something has come this way.
Why, Rich?
Because there would have to be 2 stones exactly the same shape that have been moved out of the way, leaving foot-like depressions on the same small stretch of stream.
And how far is the last one from the first one? Roughly?
400-500 foot.
Alright.
Okay, the Mande Burung's supposed to eat crab, and Ridge just found a crab shell and claws here by the area where it's been found, so we'll take that back. Nelbison. Look, you see?
Does that look like one as well? Doesn't it?
Well, that's very worn.
That looks like cow, this, I think.
Strands.
How many would you like to give us?
How many you want to take?
No, well you tell us because they're your precious things.
Let's split it 3.
Okay, 3.
For you, 3 for me?
Yeah, that's great.
Okay. And this is the hair sample we've got from Rongbakri last year.
Alright.
Yeah, but we don't know exactly what it is.
We don't know what it is, so
it might be a cow hair or whatever.
We're going to have a look, are we?
I think
this is where a microscope
yeah.
would have come in handy.
And this is the one we collected from where Nelbison has had his encounter. near Nokrek National Park.
Well, let's get them analysed. Are these the same ones that the History Channel analysed?
Yes, this is the same strands of hair which has been taken by BBC guy, Alistair Lawson, and same strands, a group of strands, History Channel guys has taken from here. They have taken 2 each.
Well, we'll get these taken. We need. Have you got a sample bag on you?
Yeah, it's quite big ones though, but we can transfer them to smaller ones.
And you've got some tweezers?
Some tweezers, yeah.
Right, we'll have to get them out in a second. Alright.
The hairs that were taken, how many hairs were taken and tested?
From this bunch?
Yeah.
Mr. Alistair Lawson from BBC, I think he took 3.
And did he return them, or were they
No,
destroyed?
no, it has been destroyed in
Did any of them
DNA
have
testing.
roots on them? Did you give him any that had roots, maybe?
No, I don't remember.
Right.
I don't remember.
Have any of those got a medulla on them?
Yeah, one has.
Get them all with the medulla on.
One's got a root.
And then History Channel guys, they took 2.
Doesn't immediately jump out to me as looking like primate, but better safe than sorry.
Bovine.
It does look somewhat bovine. So you say your father found this in the 1980s then?
Yes.
And whereabouts?
He found it in Balpakram National Park.
And what did he think it was? Did he know, or did he think it could be the Mande Burung?
No, he doesn't know exactly what it is, but he suspected it to be that of Mande Burung. So he picked it up and he got it.
Yeah, and what do you think?
Myself, I'm not good in anatomy, so I don't know what it is.
Well, we've taken a sample, and if we find out, we'll let you know.
Yeah, sure. Thank you.
Okay, thanks a lot.
It was our last night in the field, and I always feel rather melancholy on these occasions. And as we went outside into the dusk, I was lost in my own thoughts. We'd only done a fraction of what needed to be done in our 3 weeks in India. I knew that one day I'd have to come back. I'd have to come back because of the footprints. I'd have to come back because of the hair samples. And I'd have to come back because Mr. Kipling writes exceedingly good books.
Searching for a gigantopithecus and a snake longer than an omnibus. But it didn't make us nervous, unlike the tour restaurant service. To the distant Garo Hills in search of giant ape-related thrills, cryptozoology calls, we must obey. Over the hills and far away.
The samples of DNA we brought back from the antlers of what we thought was a new species of deer were sent to our old friend Dr. Lars Thomas at the University of Copenhagen. He and his friend Dr. Tom Gilbert carried out numerous tests on these, and at first it did look like it was a new species. They all became very excited, as did we. But it fell at the last hurdle. It turned out that the DNA was in fact from a young sambur. The answer to this riddle lies in the fact that the sambur's antlers change over time,
An adult sambar will have branching antlers rather like our very own red deer, but a young specimen has much stubbier antlers, rather like those of a muntjac, which fooled all of us. We thought it was a new species of giant muntjac, and even the deer experts at Copenhagen University got all excited about it. But in the end, it turned out to be just a sambar. But at least we found out the truth behind the story of the machok, the mystery deer of the Garo Hills. It's nothing more than a young sambar. And a big thank you to Lars and to Dr. Tom Gilbert and everybody who did this wonderful work on the DNA. One day, chaps, we'll turn up something that's going to be really spectacular.